Hello, hello, my friends. AmyR here with Prairie Paper and Ink. Welcome back to my face, my card making space, and another STAMPtember limited edition exclusive collab video. I don't plan on doing the face intros for most of these videos, but this one I wanted to give just a quick little, because it's Tim Holtz, which is always super popular, and this year is different. Instead of just like a collab set, it is a bundle. I don't have all of the info as of filming this intro. When this video goes live, the live on the Simon Says Stamp YouTube channel will have been done and over with, explaining all the things. So definitely check that out. And then I will have a link, of course, to the bundle in the description box below the video. And that one will be coming with a free class with Tim Holtz. So all that will be available, all the info. The bundle itself is while supplies last. Because it is limited edition, the class will be at a later date. All that info will be with the bundle linked below. And then I'll include this video as part of my 2025 holiday series. I've been doing holiday cards monthly all year so far, sometimes more than once a month, depending on what's going on. And yeah, I'll put that playlist at the very end of this video in the end screen, and you can check that out, and I'll keep adding to it because why not? It gets me a little bit ahead before I really dive in to the holiday card making. And then yeah, everything else I used, as always, will be listed and linked in the description box below the video. My links are affiliate links. That just means that if you click on one of my links and end up placing an order, I do get a little kickback from that at no extra cost to you. That is what helps pay the bills, keeps the lights on, enables me to keep bringing out content. And let's get into making these cards. Alrighty. So I'm using the Festive watercolor stamp set that is part of this Tim Holtz STAMPtember bundle. And there's this big 6x8 stamp set with all of these like watercolored looking images. There is a coordinating die set as well. And I took distress watercolor paper, and I'm going to use Oxide inks, specifically the minis for most of this, which just make it a little convenient. You can use like full-size ink pads to do this as well, but the minis just made it easier for me to kind of do like dual colors on these stamps. So I put these two poinsettia images onto acrylic blocks and then ink them up with two shades of Distress Oxide ink. So I'm using Festive Berries and a Lumberjack Plaid. And I'm not worried about like getting like a perfect blend. Doesn't matter because I'm spraying them, as you can see, with water. And that has, adds all that water to the stamp, which one is where Distress inks and Distress Oxides really shine. But also it enables me to do multiple stamp impressions, so you can get the second generation. I could technically have stamped it even a third time without re-inking it. It would have just been very pale, but I was happy with twice. So I'd ink it up, spray it with water, stamp it. I would lightly mist it with water a second time and stamp it the second time. You don't always have to do that. It's just fun to experiment, see what works. So for the greenery, I was using, for this first bit, I was using bundled sage and I think peeled paint. And then for this one, I'm using peeled paint and crushed olive. And I would kind of use the edges of the ink pads to get in there, to do like multiple colors. But again, not worrying about anything. Let it do its thing. Because once you're spraying the water and the ink's moving around, it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. So for the final sprig, because I was like, ooh, I still have space. Let's use another like sprig from the stamp set. That one I pulled out pine needles because that one doesn't have a mini yet. It will at some point. So I did the same thing though. I just was holding the ink pad on an angle. So I'm inking up more with just the edge of it. And then I would take walnut stain and kind of same thing, just using like the very edge of the ink pad. Not worried though about it doesn't need to be perfect. Doesn't need to be perfect. And then spray it with water, stamp it, and either stamp it a second time or I would mist it with water, just again to get that like kind of watercolory sort of look. And then I let all this dry, which didn't take very long. And I used a coordinating wafer dies and die cut all of these images. So now I've got just a pile of these images to work with. Once I have all of those and I set them aside for my backgrounds for these cards, I'm again working on distress watercolor paper. And this time I'm going to put, these are A2 size panels right now, so 4¼ by 5½ inches. And I'm putting them onto a grip mat just to hold the paper and the stencils in place. And this stencil set is an oldie but goodie favorite. This is the Stripes and Plaid Builder stencil set that came out, I'm not even sure when last year or the year before. It came out a while ago. And I'm doing very quick and simple, extra quick because I've, sped this up in editing, but very quick and simple stenciling with those same Oxide inks. I'm not applying it evenly. I am just brushing on the color because it's not going to matter. It's not. One, it gives it a little extra texture, not making it perfect. You could add in like more ink and smooth it out if that's, the look you're going for. That's fine. But I'm planning on spraying this with water. I'm planning on embossing this. There's going to be splatter, all the things. So I was like, don't overthink it. Just slap on some ink. So I used the bundled sage, and then I think it was peeled paint. Again, I was like all over the place. I was just kind of working with some, like the similar colors. And with my final stencil, that's where I went in with a bit of walnut stain. And again, just slapping that color on, because we're also going to spray this again with water. This is where Oxides it like intensifies them, but I'm also going to spray it with water and then also emboss it. It's just fun. So I go in with the walnut stain, and with these stencils, you could continue to add to it. Like you could just rotate the stencils or shift them over, whatever look you're going for, and like build up whatever sort of plaid pattern you want. But I just used the stencils basically as is and just did like that one layer, one of green, the second wider stripes of a different shade of green, and then this final one with brown. And that was fine for me. So after I've got all of this on here, normally when I run cardstock through with an embossing folder, I talk about like misting the back, with water. That helps to soften the paper fibers. You get a better, emboss impression. This time I'm spraying the front, and I'm spraying it fairly heavily. These inks, being water reactive, are going to move a bit. And that's what I want, So I sprayed the front of this fairly heavily with water, and then I'm putting it in Simon Says Stamp's Thread Plaid 3D embossing folder and running this through. And the ink is moving a bit. It's going to press into this embossing folder a little bit. It just adds to it. So I ran that through my die cutting machine, and that's what I'm left with. And it just kind of gives it a neat look. So it's still wet, obviously, so I'm going to set that aside, let it dry. I'm going to wipe out the little bit of ink that did transfer to the folder, and then do the exact same thing with the second panel. Now you could emboss first and then use those stencils because they are meant to go together. So you could emboss first and then use the stencils to really line up those different areas with the stripes. Again, personal preference. I just did it like this because why not? Especially for this is more the background. It's not the focus. It just adds a little bit of extra color and depth and texture. So after I was done with those, I let them fully dry before cutting or doing anything because one, you don't want to get ink everywhere, and two, you don't want these to like fall apart or anything. So I let them dry, and then I trimmed them down to about 4 by 5¼ inches, like smaller than A2 card front. So I trimmed those down. I've got all my die cut pieces. I then decided to add some baker's twine to this, just give it that little extra something. So I kind of sort of figured out, my layout roughly, and then once I had that visual going on, it was like, okay, I'm getting to where I want to be with this. So this is when I pulled out some just black and white baker's twine and wrapped that around. And as always, reverse tweezers for the win, because you start your knot, and then I use the reverse tweezers to hold that in place. And then I can build my little bow, and then I can fiddle with it till I'm happy with it, pull it tight, remove the tweezers, pull it tight again just to ensure it's, not going to fall apart, and then trim the ends off. And then all of these elements, these die cut elements that I had stamped, I'm just adhering with liquid glue. You could also pop these up with, foam squares, all that, like really build the dimension. But I'm adding, like I've got the baker's twine, there's going to be sentiments on top of this. I'm also going to add this to another panel later with some foam tape. So I just adhered all this with glue. but ain't nothing wrong with, going all out with dimension. So when I was adhering, and then I would just stick my magnets on top of it, especially the pieces like that I'm adhering like over the baker's twine there. And then I would just put the magnet, anything heavy will work, just to hold everything down while I, glue everything into place. So once I have these all glued into place, let the glue dry for a couple minutes, putting these in my spot box, and I'm going to add a good amount of splatter to these. So I'm just going to use my white and black gouache because it was handy. I don't even bother putting that stuff away. And started with the white, added it to my palette, added a little bit of water to thin it down, and then did a heavy amount of splatter because this just adds to it. It adds to the texture. Can't go wrong in my opinion. It'll also kind of absorb a bit of those oxide inks as well. Just have fun with it. And then I'm going to add some black splatter, which I know freaks people out quite often. I get it. But once you start, really getting into splatter, it's fun. It's fun. It's not for everyone, and that's okay. So I added some black gouache to my palette, and then I'm going to add some splatter. Just gives it that little extra something. So same thing. Use the water to thin it out just a smidge, and then added a good healthy dose of splatter to these, and then cleaned everything up. And then while all of that splatter was drying, I'm going to start assembling my sentiments. And in this bundle is this great big Festive Words die set. These dies are huge. Love them. Great big word dies with outlines. So I die cut the Mary word from that set from some of Simon's pale green glitter cardstock. And I just grabbed some green cardstock from my stash. This is kind of irrelevant. I just used it to stack it up to, build that bit of dimension. So any green, white cardstock would work, whatever. It would also just depend on what, like if you wanted to use glitter paper or other specialty papers. But I adhered the glitter cardstock layer and the cardstock layer together with liquid glue. The outline I die cut from vellum, adhered those together, and then that final cardstock layer I'm adhering to the back underneath the vellum. This will pop the vellum up just a smidge. It will also make it easier when I go to adhere this to my card front. I can put glue on the back of the cardstock because tracing behind the vellum, because liquid glue shows through vellum, it's not pretty. So then I'll be able to add glue to the cardstock, which I'll show in a minute. And then to finish the sentiment, I'm using this big Festive sentiment stamp set that has all these words to build different phrases. Also love. So I took those and I built the 'Tis the Season sentiment with that. And that is going to get stamped on the inside of my cards. So my card bases are A2 size, so 5.5 by 4.25 inches. And I stamped and inked up and stamped the sentiments with the Lumberjack Plaid Oxide ink. So got that stamped on the inside. Could just leave it here, that'd be fine. But I couldn't resist grabbing another little sprig from the Festive watercolor set. So I put that in a block and I'm inking it up with those same pine needles and then the walnut stain. And then I'll spray that with water and I'll stamp that onto the insides of these cards. Just to tie it all together, give it that little extra something. So stamp that, and this time rather than spray it again, I just stamped it and then quickly stamped it the second time on the second inside of the card, and that finished off the insides. So to build that little extra bit of dimension, my card fronts now, like everything's dry, I put Simon's Big Mama foam tape on the back, so that'll pop it up a smidge. And I die cut some of Simon's Schoolhouse Red cardstock with the largest of the A2 postage layers. Love. And the largest layer in that die set is A2, which you guys are going to see me use this die set like a ton. So I adhered those together. It just gives it that little extra something. And then I can pop my big Mary sentiment on here. And this is what I mean. I can just put the adhesive right on that cardstock layer. So I don't have to worry about trying to trace it on the vellum and glue oozes out and it's just a pain. So this makes it a million times easier. So I got that on there, pop that into place. That Wishes word is from the Festive Sentiment set. And off camera, I just white heat embossed it onto a scrap of black cardstock. And I die cut more scraps of black cardstock to build up that little bit of dimension. So adhere those together. And then to adhere this to the card front, I just used some of Simon's thin black foam squares because I've got that unevenness from the baker's twine. So I just put little bits of the foam squares here and there where it was needed before sticking that to my card front. And then once I got that adhered into place, my little final bit of embellishment were these Positively Dazzling gems from Simon. These ones were, I already put them back. These were the Sprout Positively Dazzling gems. So I adhered those and then adhered this to my card base with liquid glue. Like I said, that postage layer is like A2 sized. I love that framing. It's so good. It's so good. So I adhered that, and that finished off my cards. So we got a bit of glitter. We got that watercolor look, splatter, some texture. These were a lot of fun. So, like I mentioned in the intro, I'll have links to all the things in the description box below the video. So you can just open that and expand it to check it all out if you are interested. As always, thank you all so very much for hanging out with me, for thumbs upping and commenting, letting them robot overlords know you like what you see. Subscribe if you haven't. I'd love to have you. And I will be seeing you all very soon in another video. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much to my amazing Patreon supporters. For anyone that might be interested in joining my Patreon community and supporting me, the link to my Patreon is in the description box below the video. For everyone else, as always, thank you all so much for taking the time to watch my videos, for thumbs upping, commenting, subscribe if you haven't, I'd love to have you. And here's a couple other videos for you to check out in case you missed them. Bye!